All right, and let's bring in our panel to react. We have Steve Forbes, Forbes Media Chairman, and Carol Roth, an entrepreneur and a former investment banker. Steve, I want to go ahead and start with you. You just heard Congressman Reed say one of the pillars is simplicity. You co-wrote a piece in the New York Times. You basically said, keep it simple. What needs to go in this tax plan from your perspective?
Well, on the corporate side, getting that rate down to 15%, that would be great. Instant expensing of capital expenditures, making it possible for companies to bring back without a penalty their stranded overseas earnings, over $2 trillion there. And on the individual side, not only reducing the rates, but getting rid of things like the alternative minimum tax, which is a horror, getting rid of the death tax. All of those things would be very good for the economy. And for pass-through businesses, small businesses, they got to make sure they bring that rate down from the almost 40+% today down to 20 or 25%.
All right. Well, Carol, I want to go over to you on this. And, every time we hear commitments from the administration about some of these pro-growth policies, we see the markets rally. What are you thinking is going to happen next week? We're talking tax reform, we're talking health care, and then we also have the looming government shutdown. What are you expecting in the markets?
I think that the markets always trade more on the possibilities than the realities, and I think that there is more exposure on these tax reforms not being quite as robust as maybe the market had hoped, that maybe that health care, there ends up being another miss. So I think that the markets will remain patient for some period of time, but we do need to see not only some movement, but some movement around the level of expectations, like Steve was talking about, whether it be a 15 or 20% corporate tax rate, and then also doing all of those things for small businesses that account for more than half the jobs and half the sales in this country. If we don't get that level of change, I think that the markets are going to react negatively to that.
Steve, it's not only what goes into the tax package, it's what doesn't go into the tax package that could be important too, because we've been hearing about these I think, lame brain ideas. It's a personal opinion, but on adding new taxes, adding a border tax, adding a carbon tax. Steve Mnuchin yesterday seemed to be pouring cold water on the border tax. He said, and I'm quoting, we're concerned about the border tax's impact on currency. It could push up the dollar, which could hurt exports. Alternatively, if the currency doesn't correct, you have price appreciation and inflation, particularly for consumers. So either way, it's bad for America. Do you think he has it right?
Oh, that's music to the ears. One of the, as you say, lame brain ideas the Republicans ever came up with on the House Ways and Means Committee was this 20% national sales tax, this border tax. It would raise the price of a car over $2,000, price of gasoline over 30 cents a gallon, raise the prices of cost of living for the very people, especially who elected Donald Trump. Yeah. And to do that is insane. And they say, well, we need the money for other tax cuts. Well, tax cuts are supposed to be C-U-T-S, cuts, right, not raising one and cutting another. It's insane.
Right. It's our money. It's our money. It's not like the government can create it. They can print it, but they can't create it. All right, Carol, there's another idea. Gary Cohn, who's a close advisor to the president, a lot of people worry that because he comes from the Democratic side, that he's liberal, that he might favor something like a carbon tax, which has been floated by Democrats for decades. But yesterday he said the carbon tax is, and I'm quoting him, not in the mix. That was music to my ears. Was it to yours?
Absolutely. I think whether it's the border tax or carbon tax or anything that you want to put in front of the word tax other than cutting tax, that is not anything that the majority of Americans want to see and want to hear. I think that the challenge that we have is that we have some very smart voices in a Gary Cohn, in a Steve Mnuchin, but will not only the president listen to them, but then when it ultimately gets to Congress, can they execute? Because even though they theoretically have that mandate, you never underestimate the ability for Republicans to screw things up. So this is their opportunity to get it done and to get it done the right way, because if they don't do it now, it may never happen.
Yeah, you bring up great points. Steve and I were reluctantly agreeing with you on that one. Carol and Steve, good stuff. Thank you very much. Leah.
Thank you.